we are doing a very interesting mimer because we're actually doing the mimer as it's written as a sicha. So this is a mimer from Vaykhel from 1952, and it's written as a mimer. And a part of the mimer, a very, let's call it a Voidic part of the mimer, they actually took and made a sicha from it. So we're going to learn the sicha version, but this is part of mimer because actually you could look inside in the Sefer Maimarim, Bilti Muga, of course, and it's there. So being as it's written in a sicha style, it's a little more structured as a sicha, though, again, all the content is the mimer. So this is based on the opening pasuk of Parshas Vaykhel, where it says, Vaykhel Moshe. Moshe gathered the Jewish people. He's talking to them. And then the pasuk says that he tells them, these are the things that God commanded you to do them. And then he starts talking about Shabbos, 6 days work shall be done, the seventh day, Shabbos Shabboson. So the Rebbe raises questions on this. The first question is, Vaykhel. Moshe is talking to Klal Yisrael. Moshe talked to Klal Yisrael for 40 years. Why here at this specific talking to Klal Yisrael over any other gathering of Klal Yisrael for 40 years, it says Vaykhel, and he gathered, drum roll, please. Why here? That's the first question the Rebbe raises. The second question the Rebbe raises is these introductory words, and these are the things that God commanded you to do them. What things? What are we talking about? That is a classical question, and most of the Mefarshim ask that question. And the answer of most of the Mefarshim is, it's not talking about the next words about Shabbos, but after that, we talk about the heart of the Parsha, what we continue talking about for the whole Parsha, basically, which is the dedication for the Mishkan. So these are the things which God commanded you to do them. Doesn't refer to the following words of Shabbos, but what's after that, to Trumas HaMishkan, to the dedication of the Mishkan. The Rebbe says, but if you look at that pasuk where we're talking about the dedication of the Mishkan and all the items you're supposed to dedicate, it says the same words. These are the things that God commanded you to do them, and then talks about the dedication of the Mishkan. So we can't say the same pasuk twice and say both times it means this one issue. So it can't be talking about. So what's it talking about? These are the things which God commanded you to do them. 6 days work should be done. It must be talking about Shabbos. That's the next pasuk. Why is it hard? Why don't most Mefarshim accept that it's Shabbos? Because this isn't the first time we've heard about Shabbos. I mean, Shabbos is in the Aseret HaDibros. We're now in Parshas Vaykhel. So if the Jews were already commanded on Shabbos, why would Moshe say, this is what God's commanding you to do? I mean, we know that. We already got Shabbos. And if it's Trumas HaMishkan, well, we already say this exact pasuk. A second time we will say it by Trumas HaMishkan in another pasuk or two. So what are these words referring to? The next question the Rebbe raises is the pasuk when it's talking about Shabbos says 6 days work should be done, and then the seventh day is Shabbos, Shabbos Shabboson. And the Rebbe says, Shabbos Shabboson, Shabbos. What do we call it? Shabbos Shabboson. And also, Rashi tells us that this Vaykhel was after Yom Kippur. The day after Yom Kippur, this is when Moshe said these words to Klal Yisrael. That's what he's telling them about the Mishkan, right? He comes down, Yom Kippur, Salachti Kidvarecha, Moshe's first day of talking to the Jews. He tells them, Hashem forgave us, and now we're building God a home. Let's make this Mishkan. But Rashi, who's a Pashtan, is emphasizing that this day of Vaykhel is the day after Yom Kippur. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, it's true. We know, we're not arguing the facts. But if Rashi is saying it to us, it must mean there's some thematic connection between this day being the day after Yom Kippur, when we finally got forgiven for Chet HaEgel, Salachti Kidvarecha, and whatever this pasuk is talking about, which is keeping Shabbos. So what's the connection between keeping Shabbos and this is the day after Yom Kippur when we finally got forgiven for Chet HaEgel? So those are the four questions that the Rebbe is raising as he introduces the concepts. This is actually, to be very precise, in the middle of the mimer. Meaning I said this is excerpted from a mimer. It's not the beginning of the mimer. It's not the end. It's within the mimer. This piece was so strong and powerful. And not everyone learns Memorim, so that's why it got, I assume, taken and made its own independent Sicha. So to start unpacking this, we look at the phrase, which is the critical phrase for this discussion. When we begin talking about Shabbos, we first begin saying, introduction, 6 days work shall be done, and then the seventh day, that's the day you rest, that's Shabbos Shabboson. So the Rebbe says, 6 days work should be done. It should say, 6 yamim ta'aseh melacha. For 6 days work, and the seventh day, rest. So the Medrash on these words say, ta'aseh melacha, it's a bracha. If you serve Hashem properly, it's not just that on Shabbos you're resting. 6 yamim ta'aseh melacha. For 6 days, your work will be done. Someone else will be dealing with it. It's like I always think, oh, fear not. If I don't do it now, it'll still be waiting for me. No one else is going to be dealing with it. Well, this is a bracha. Sheishes yom te'aseh malacha. You serve Hashem properly. Someone else will handle your work. It shall be done, not by you. Passive. So the Rebbe says, this is true. This is a bracha. But the bracha is also a kivun. The bracha is a direction how we are supposed to behave. So if the pasuk says, Sheishes yom te'aseh malacha, not ta'aseh, you shall do, but te'aseh, passive, the work shall be done like it's happening on its own, and the Midrash says this is the bracha, that you don't have to be invested in the work should happen on its own. This is also how we're supposed to live our lives. We're supposed to live our lives that the work is happening without too much investment on our part. And Rebbe connects this, it says in Tehillim, Yagia kapecha ki soichel, ashrecha v'toivlach. The efforts of the toil, the efforts of your hands, you shall eat. You know, you work with your hands and you sweat, and then you produce food and you eat. Ashrecha v'toivlach. Chacham say, ashrecha v'elam hazeh, toivlach v'elam haba. It'll be good for you in this world, it'll be good for you in the next world. How does this jive with what the Rebbe is saying? Sheishes yom te'aseh. Relax, laid back. Let the work happen on its own. The Rebbe says, no, this pasuk from Tehillim is exactly supporting my point. Because what does the pasuk say? Sheishes yamim te'aseh malacha. 6 days work should be done. Yagia kapecha kisachal. David HaMelech says in Tehillim, the work of your hands. That's what's supposed to be creating your food supply and the money to pay the rent and the money to take care of everything else as well. Yagia kapecha. Meaning, the work of your hands, not the work of your mind, not the work of your heart, the work of your hands. Yeah, your hands will get dirty. Your hands will have the sweat, but that's as much investment as you should make in work. Don't invest your mind and your heart. Your mind and your heart, leave that for Hashem. Now, of course, we were just talking about your work, and maybe if the work is helping people, when you're investing your mind and your heart, that's part of Avodas Hashem. You're part of serving Hashem because you're helping people. But the other works, the bureaucratic work, all the works we're busy with. I was an hour and a half on a like ComEd trying to decipher a bill call. And after I finished, I'm like, ooh, this is exactly what the Maimer is saying not to do. You want to be Ashrecha v'Toivlach? Make sure it's Yagia Kapecha. That's what David HaMelech is saying to Tehillim. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us in the Torah. Sheishes yamim te'aseh malacha. It's the same theme. So we see, if it says, Yagia kapecha kiseichel, there does have to be some work. But Yagia kapecha, not your mind and not your heart. So minimal investment, just the work that's needed to be done. And this, the Rebbe says, is exactly in sync with the concept of how we draw down God's blessings to our life. How we draw down Hashem's brachas. What does the pasuk say? Uverechacha Hashem Elokecha b'chol asher ta'aseh. And Hashem will bless you in all that you do. From this we learn that you have to do. If Hashem will bless you in all that you do and you did zero, it's hard for the bracha to happen. Hashem can break nature and make it happen anyway. And obviously, many times Hashem does. But we're told that if you could do something and didn't, Hashem's not so pleased that you forced him to break nature. Hashem doesn't want to have to break nature. Hashem made nature. Hashem likes nature, so to speak. He's upholding nature. So, Uvarach Hashem Elkecha, Hashem will bless you. In everything you do, you make the keli, you look for your job, work at your home, work at your raising your children. But what's making it happen, what's creating the success, is not your work. So it's, on one hand, you don't want to work, sorry, you got to work. On the other hand, you're believing in your work, you're investing yourself in your work, you're investing your mind and heart in your work, sorry. The bracha is coming from Hashem. So what draws down Hashem's brachas? When we do it his way. What does it mean doing it his way? When we invest our hands in the work and on our mind and heart. Like, the Hasidic story of, I don't even remember which Rebbe it was, saying to his Chassid, feeding galoshin I've seen, but I've never seen a head in galoshin. Like, what are you putting your head in your boots? Which I guess his business was boots. What are you putting your head in making boots? Put your feet in boots, not your head in boots. So Yagi Kapecha, you have to do and know that the bracha comes if you do it Hashem's way, which is with your hands, but not your head or your heart. So what the Rebbe is giving here is a whole challenge a challenge. Like I said, I spent an hour and a half with comment on the phone, and I was after the hour and a half, I was like, this was exactly not what I'm supposed to do according to this mimer. Forget it. You don't need an hour and a half for 4 people to try to explain to you a bill that actually none of them can. Just forget it. Well, I'm not supposed to do. You're supposed to do. But you're not supposed to invest yourself so much. That was a very heavy duty investment of self. So it's hard. We live in a physical world, and we have to do. If doing is doctors, if doing is our finances, if doing is running our home, if doing is our job. I mean, we live in a world we're surrounded by stuff that we're supposed to be doing all day long. And the Rebbe is saying, yes, but watch yourself. Don't fall in the trap that you invest self in these things. Do them. They have to be done. I'm not letting you off the hook. Do them, but don't invest self. The Rebbe says, really, we live in a world that wherever we are, wherever we turn, there's God right there. Meaning, the whole world is full of God. I fill heaven and earth. The matter, the fabric, the building block of this world is Hashem. There's nothing but Hashem. So wherever we are always in the presence of Hashem. So we know, it says in Halacha, that if you're in the presence of a king, and we're in the presence of the King of Kings, you can't do anything else but be in the presence of the king. It's a very famous concept that says if someone's in the presence of the king, and he wants to pass a message on to someone else in the presence of the king, but he can't talk because that's rude because he's in the presence of the king, he's just going to like wink, something to like intimate a message. He's chayav. He's a marid b'malchus. How could you be standing in the presence of the king and do anything, think anything, and any facial gesture have anything going on besides I'm in the presence of the king? So the Rebbe says, we're in the presence of Hashem. Wherever you turn, you're in the presence of Hashem. This whole world is the presence of Hashem. So we're not just in the presence of a king. We're in the presence of the ultimate king. How can we do anything that's not serving the king? Not Torah mitzvahs. Well, we can because Hashem gives us permission to. So it's like technically you shouldn't be able to do anything. But since the king is giving you permission to do some things, those things you can do. So what is the king giving us permission to do? Sheishis yamin te'aseh melacha. That was the permission. The permission was just if you do it passively. Just if it's yagia kapecha, not your mind or your heart. So if a person invests themselves, the Rebbe is saying, it's like not that they're doing any averas, but the Rebbe says, in essence, they're a mayrid b'malchus. In essence, they're in the presence of the king and they're investing themselves in things the king doesn't allow in his presence. Well, we're supposed to feel so strongly his presence. We will stop at this point. We just sort of quickly did about half of it. And it's a very strong challenge and avoida, a very strong really looking at ourselves. Like today, yes, I messed up. And really thinking, how do I apply this? Are there things I'm over investing in? And if I was a greater believer, I would still deal with it, but I would deal with it with less investment of self, with less tension and nerves and anxiety, with less emotionalism, with just like, okay, this medical issue, I'm going to do what I can do, and that's it. Hashem, you're going to make it work, no matter what I end up doing, or any other situation, like looking for a job. You could be obsessed and consumed and work so hard, and you can say, listen, Hashem, I'm doing my part. You clearly want me to have a job. Obviously, it's part of supporting a Jewish family. So I'm going to do my part, and you're going to fill it with brachas. Not that I won't work, but I'm not going to let it take me over. I'm not going to let it take me over. I'm going to trust that whatever I do, you will fill with the brachas.